Hello everyone, I hope you're well. It is back to school season, and that means that a lot of people are going to be starting law school really soon. So when I think about my time in law school, obviously I think about all of the good times I had in law school, but I also think about all the mistakes that I made. And I made quite a few. And everyone makes mistakes. It's fine. You live, you learn, and then you die. You live and you learn. And it's okay. Everyone makes mistakes, really. But I would like you guys not to make the same mistakes that I made when I was in law school. So today, we're going to be talking about some of the mistakes that I made in law school and things that I wish I had known before starting law school so that you can be smarter than I was. If you're new here, hi, my name's Aisha. I'm a lawyer and I'm an entrepreneur based in Montreal, and I make videos about law school, becoming a lawyer, legal information, entrepreneurship, and a bunch of other things. So the first thing that I wish I had known before starting law school is that law school friendships are super valuable and you should take the time to build some. I'm gonna be honest with you, when I was in law school, all I wanted to do was go to class, do whatever it was that I had to do in class, and just go home to study. I didn't know anyone when I first started law school, and to be honest, I didn't really care. Obviously, you spend 3 years at the same place, you do end up making friends, and I love the friends that I made in law school, but looking back, sometimes I wish that I had taken more time to connect with other law students, and I'll tell you why. Reason number one, and I know everyone says this, but it's not super easy to make friendships once you start working. There are a lot fewer occasions for you to actually meet people and build real relationships. Obviously, you're going to meet a bunch of people after law school, but it's really not the same as taking the time to just build a real connection with someone. And honestly, it's normal because everyone's getting older, everyone's busy, everyone's just doing their own thing. And I now realize that even though I do have friends from law school that I absolutely adore, sometimes I wish I had more friends from law school who could actually understand what my life is like now and the things that I am going through or that I will be going through because of my job in the future. Also, connections in general are super valuable. I remember spending a lot of time building connections with professors, with people who were already in the legal field without really realizing that the people that I was going to school with were the people who were going to eventually refer clients to me, who were going to propose that I speak at this conference or that I get involved with this organization, people who would invite me to fun events. And yes, it is really important to connect with your professors. And yes, focusing on your studies is super important. I'm not going to tell you otherwise. But keep in mind that the people that you meet in law school, the students that you meet in law school are going to keep popping up for the rest of your career. And I'm also now just starting to connect with people that I went to law school with and that I spoke to briefly, but I never really took the time to build a strong connection with. And sometimes I tell myself, I just wish I had known you better before, because I really enjoy talking to you now. The second thing that I wish I had known before starting law school is that, and this is really important, you shouldn't be taking classes just because you think they're going to be useful to you in the future. Now, this is a mistake that I saw a lot of people make in law school. This is a mistake that I made, but I only made it once. I saw people make this mistake over and over and over again. So here in Quebec, after law school, we don't directly write the bar exam. We actually have to go to what we call bar school. So it's a 4 or 8 month long program. You have class every day, and then you can write the bar exam. So in law school, you are really encouraged to take what is called les cours barreau, which are basically bar classes. And those classes are classes that cover topics that you know you will get to see in bar school and that will most likely be in the bar exam. And they're not mandatory classes, but they are strongly suggested. The reasoning behind that is it's going to be easier for you in bar school because you'll be learning about a topic that you already saw in law school. And let me tell you something. That is, and I don't care what anyone says, that is an absolute lie. When I was in law school, I took a class that was called matrimonial regimes, and the only reason why I took it was because I said to myself, maybe I should just take one cours barreau just so I can get ahead a little bit. I had no interest in that class. I did not care about matrimonial regimes, but I still took the class. I hated it. I had no interest in it. I wrote the midterm, and after writing that midterm, I knew that I wasn't going to get a good grade, and I knew that it was going to affect my GPA. I just knew. And so I decided to drop out of the class. I was able to do that before the deadline. And so I wasted half a semester on that class that I ended up dropping. And had I stayed in that class, as I said, that could have seriously affected my GPA, which obviously wouldn't have been good for me. And so obviously I did end up going to bar school because I had to, and we did see matrimonial regimes, and it was, and I hope you hear me well, it was nothing like what I was taught in law school. It was day and night. I just didn't get it. When I was in law school, it made no sense to me. I hated it. I thought it was boring. But in bar school, I actually found it really interesting, and I found it quite simple. And the reason why I had such a different reaction to matrimonial regimes in law school than I did in bar school, and this is why I don't believe in general in taking les cours barreau if you don't care about these classes. If you're interested in them, that's another thing. But if you're only taking them just because you think you'll get ahead in bar school, this is why I don't believe in that. The way that you're taught in law school has nothing to do with the way that you're taught in bar school. Absolutely nothing. I remember, and this didn't only happen with matrimonial regimes. There are a lot of classes and a lot of topics that I had to learn about in bar school that I had already seen in law school because I had to see them in mandatory classes, that I just found so much more interesting and a lot easier to understand in bar school than I did in law school. In law school, everything is really theoretical. Professors are really focused on really long, elaborated answers that have as many details as possible. While in bar school, everything is very straightforward. You are expected to give really short answers in exams. Everything's a lot more practical, and it just made more sense to me. And by the way, I did take half of the matrimonial regimes class in law school, and I can tell you that nothing I learned during that half semester was useful to me in bar school. The way that we're taught in bar school just made more sense with my brain. I'm not one to give really elaborate answers. I like things that are straight to the point, that are really straightforward. I don't like talking too much if I don't need to. And yeah, the bar school in general just worked a lot better with who I was and how my brain worked. And that is why I do not suggest taking bar classes or les cours barreau if you do not actually care about these topics and you don't actually want to learn about them. And just to be clear, I know a lot of people who took every single cours barreau they could in law school and they still failed the bar exam. There really is no link between the two, in my opinion, obviously, in my opinion. Just take the time to take classes that you actually find interesting. There are a lot of classes in law school that you will never get to take again. If you see something that interests you, do not replace it with a cours barreau or with another class that you want to take just because you think it'll be more useful to you than the class that you're actually interested in. You will learn whatever it is that you need to learn when the time comes. I took matrimonial regimes because I thought it would help me. I eventually did see matrimonial regimes. There was no reason for me to see it twice. It didn't help me. Take classes that you actually find interesting. The third thing that I wish I had known before starting law school is that understanding where you thrive as a student is essential. It really took me some time to understand how to get the best grades possible in law school, but I realized, I think in 2L, that I did really well in classes that didn't require me to write an exam. So classes where I had to do presentations, classes where I had to write papers, I did so well in. And that's just the way that my brain worked. Still today, I really love writing. I also remember that I used to get really anxious when I had exams compared to when I had to write papers. I was really good at grasping what professors were looking for in terms of writing style or in terms of length. I just did a lot better with papers. And now, looking back at my time in law school, I think I should have noticed that earlier and that I should have focused earlier on taking classes that allowed me to write papers and allowed me to do presentations instead of taking exams. I think my GPA would have been a lot better, and I think my stress levels would have been a lot lower had I done that earlier. And now looking back at every single year in law school, I can tell you that my third year was my best year because I really made an effort to take as many classes as possible where I did not have to write exams. So my advice would be, during your first year in law school, take the time to observe where you thrive and what comes easiest to you. Some people hate writing papers. I'm not saying that, not writing exams is what everyone should be doing. Some people hate writing papers, and that's okay. Some people hate giving presentations, and that's okay. The key here is just to find what you're good at. Here in Quebec, during the first year of law school, you have to take, mandatory classes, and mandatory classes come in all shapes and forms. You will have to write papers, you will have to do presentations, you will have to write exams. So you really will be able to test it all during your first year in law school. But once you have the freedom to actually choose the classes that you're going to be taking, make sure the odds are in your favor. And obviously, I'm not saying take classes that you don't like simply because you're not gonna have to write any papers because you don't like to write papers. What I'm saying is take the time to shape law school to who you are. There are very few opportunities for you to do that in law school. Once you see one, take it. Finally, looking back at my time in law school, I wish I had trusted myself more, especially during my first year. I was obviously surrounded, for the most part, surrounded by very intelligent people in law school. And oftentimes, especially in group assignments, I doubted myself. There's really no other way to put it. You're going to stumble upon people in law school who seem to be very confident in everything that they say and everything that they do. You are going to stumble upon people who just seem to be so much smarter than you are and who just seem to understand everything that they're being taught. Do not fall for it. Do not fall for it. Obviously, I'm not saying you need to think that you're smarter than everyone else. That is really not what I'm saying at all. You don't know anything. Not at all. But I think that you as a law student should trust your intelligence. And trust that just because people seem confident in their answers doesn't mean that they're actually right. And I remember so many instances where we were doing group assignments and I sided with the rest of my team, even though I felt like the answer wasn't the right one and I felt really confident in what I was saying, simply because everyone agreed that that wasn't the answer and they just seemed so confident in what their position was. And obviously a lot of times we were all wrong. That's just how it is in law school. But here and there, I was actually right. So trust yourself. You're not dumber than everyone else. You're intelligent. There is a reason why you're in law school. Trust yourself a little more. And do not be fooled by the confidence that other law students have or that other law students seem to have. So that was it. I hope this video was useful to you. I hope you guys will have a great time in law school and that you will not be making the same mistakes that I did. If you like this video, do not hesitate to give it a thumbs up and to subscribe, and I will be seeing you very soon. Bye!